This video is part of our SAT prep where we are going to go over the concept of ratios. And there are several of these questions that are always scattered throughout the test. Sometimes they might be pretty simple, sometimes they might be a little more advanced. In any case, you need to know how to tackle them. And so we're going to kind of go from a basic idea and then we're going to take it to a little more of an advanced idea. So some of these have drawing. So I'm not suggesting you take the time to necessarily draw all of these things out while you're on the SAT, but I'm using the drawings to help illustrate the concept. So more of just as a tool for teaching and understanding. But of course, your approach is always going to need to be a quicker one since it is a timed test. So one of the things that we want to focus on is something called part whole. So we're going to look at ratios as different parts, and then we're going to try to identify the whole. And then, of course, make sure you always read the problem carefully so that you're answering, of course, what's being asked. So let's start with this basic problem here. It says that you have a pet store, has 15 dogs and 5 cats. And in the end, we want to know the ratio of cats to the total. So cats to the total. So I just put total over here. So that's going to represent my whole. And then the dogs and the cats will each be one of the parts. So you have a part, and a whole. And since there's only two parts, if you put the two parts together, that's how you're going to get your whole. Now, the total number of animals is going to be written over here, and we want to write cats to animals. So we can either use this ratio notation or we can use the fraction notation, which you need to be able to recognize both. Now, since I know that 15 is 3 5s, I made this diagram and I put 5 in each of the little boxes for the dogs so you can see that one of the parts is here and one of the parts is here, but you can see that you have 3 5s to 1 5. So if we really break that down here, you can see that you have 3 dogs to 1 cat. And so the total here is going to be adding those up, which is 20. But if you do it down here and add these up, you're going to get a total of 4. Right? So these are equivalent fractions, or we call them simplifying fractions. So we can say that there's 5 cats to 20 animals, or 5 out of 20 are the cats. But we can also simplify it and say that it maintains the ratio of 1 to 4. So every 1 cat to a total of 4 animals, every one of them is going to be a cat. So we want to make sure that we understand how to simplify and write our answers like this, because generally you're always going to need to give the simplified version. Now, taking the same idea, but looking at the next level up, we still have a diagram drawn, but here it's talking about red and blue marbles, and we're told their ratio is 7 to 3. Now, if you total that, because this is the part, you can see the whole would be 7 plus 3, which equals 10. So what I did is I drew a box and I created 10 parts in it of, trying to make sure that they all look equal, right? So you can see all the 10 parts. But then I knew 3 of those parts had to be blue marbles, and then I knew 7 of the parts had to be red marbles. Now, it does say in the question that the total of the marbles is 50. So if there's 10 parts and there's 50, that means we're going to put 5 of them in each of the little boxes. And so now you can answer the question from the diagram alone, and it says how many would be red. Well, the red are going to be over here. And so you have 7 boxes, each containing 5, so you get 35. Now, I don't expect you to draw the picture to solve the problem, so we need to get a little more of a mature way to do it, a little quicker. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say that we know that the number of red marbles to the total number of marbles has to maintain the same ratio. So if we change the total to 50, then we can try to figure out what number has to go up there. So we just set up a proportion. All right, a proportion is just two ratios set equal to each other. And then cross multiplying and solving, you're going to get the answer here is x equals 35. Okay, so once again, that idea of the part, and the whole. So we know the two parts have to add together to give the whole. Now, the last example we have over here is the advanced example. And this one we didn't use a picture at all, although if you want, you're certainly welcome to draw a triangle and kind of label everything out. But it says here that we know the ratio of the angles that are in a triangle maintain 2 to 3 to 4. So we need to find a measure of each angle. Now, the one thing they're assuming that you know is that the sum of all the angles in a triangle is 180. And if you forgot that, it's actually in the little drop-down menu cheat sheet or the formula sheet that comes on the test. But what we need to know, if we do want to draw, I'll just draw any triangle just for a visual. Okay, so if we know they maintain a ratio 2 to 3 to 4, let's suppose this one is called X and Y and Z. We know that whatever this number is, 2 times some number has got to be the same ratio all the way through as this one. So this one's going to be 2 times some number, which I'm going to let A be that number. And this one has to be 3 times that number because it has to maintain the ratio 2 to 3. And this one's going to be 4 times the number. So you can maintain the ratio 3 to 4. And of course, from this one to this one, if you wanted, you can maintain the ratio 2 to 4. So they all have to stay in the same ratio. Now, since they're angles in a triangle, we know they all add up to 180 degrees. So you can just say 2a plus 3a plus 4a is 180. And so that's going to be your more sophisticated way to do it. You find out that a is 20, and then you can go back in and say, well, that means that one of the angles is going to have to be 40, right? 2 times 20. So we can put this as a 40, which means the other one's going to have to be 3 times 20, which is 60, and the other one would have to be 4 times 20, which would be 80. So you can see that 40 over 60 maintains the ratio 2 to 3, right? 60 over 80 maintains the ratio 3 to 4. And if you do 40 over 80, it can maintain the ratio 2 to 4 here. Or this one is 3 to 4. 2 to 3 to 4. So all of your answers would be 40, 60, and 80. So that's a summary of all of the ratio lesson that you need to know, and keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next video.